Could you imagine being stripped away from your home and everything you had ever known and forced to move to a different country? I couldn't, but that's exactly what happened to the Israelites. In this presentation, we are going to explore the lament of Psalm 137. Psalm 137 is a lament that relays the sorrow, anger, and frustration of an entire nation as the Israelites faced exile in Babylon. However, this psalm also relays the Israelites' refusal to acknowledge Babylon as their nation. Before we dive into the psalm itself, it's important that we understand a little bit of the historical context within which this psalm was written. Periodically throughout the Old Testament, it talks about the Israelites as God's chosen nation and people. In Genesis 15, God makes a promise to Abraham, known as the father of the Israelites, to make his descendants as numerous as the stars and to turn them into a holy nation. God also promises to give Abraham's descendants land to dwell in and rule. In this land is Jerusalem and the temple of God. This is where God has chosen to dwell among his people in a special way. We know that Psalm 137 was written sometime after 586 BC because that is when the Babylonians took over Jerusalem. Psalm 137 reads, "By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yea, we wept when we remembered Zion. We hanged our harps upon the willows in the midst thereof. For there they that carried us away captive required of us a song, and they that wasted us required of us mirth, saying, Sing us one of the songs of Zion. How shall we sing the Lord's song in a strange land? If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her cunning. If I do not remember thee, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth, if I prefer not Jerusalem above my chief joy. Remember, O Lord, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, even to the foundation thereof. O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones." For many of us, being forced from our homes would be enough to provoke a lament. However, that is not the only purpose for the psalmist's sorrows. One of the reasons the psalmist is so distraught is because the Israelites had just lost the land God had promised them to foreign rule. The promise of land and unity as God's chosen people that God made to Abraham in Genesis is one of the key events in the Jewish and Christian religion. But now the promises of God had suddenly been stripped away from the Israelites. They had just lost the land God had given them, and they lost unity as God's chosen nation. Not only that, but the temple of the Lord was also destroyed. To their way of thinking, to be taken away from Jerusalem and the temple meant that they had been taken away from God, who was thought to dwell in the temple in a special way. One of the reasons this psalm is so striking is because it is a lament not only of one person, but of an entire nation. In the very first line, the psalmist writes, "By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yea, we wept when we remembered Zion." One of the key words to recognize in this sentence is we. It is not only one person sitting by the rivers of Babylon weeping, but it is an entire nation. Thousands upon thousands of people all weeping in the same place because they had just lost their homes, the place God had promised them, and everything they had ever known. As much as Psalm 137 is a lament, it is also strikingly powerful. In lines 2 through 4, the psalmist writes, "We hanged our harps upon the willows in the midst thereof, for they that carried us away captive required of us a song, and they that wasted us required of us mirth, saying, Sing us one of the songs of Zion. How shall we sing the Lord's song in a strange land?" Although these lines are full of sorrow, they also imply that the Israelites refused to comply with the request of their captors. It is when their captors asked them to play a song that the Israelites hung up their harps. They refused to sing the songs of the Lord in a foreign land. These lines imply that the Israelites refused to acknowledge Babylon as their true home or their people. Instead, the psalmist looks forward to the days that the Babylonians are punished for what they did to the Israelites, as he writes in lines 8 through 9, "O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed, Happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones. These excerpts from the psalm relay, well, quite frankly, anger, which is understandable, but also hope and faith that God will restore them as a nation. In conclusion, Psalm 137 not only relays the lament of an entire nation, but it also shows the striking refusal of the Israelites to acknowledge any other nation as their home.